Get your ears wrapped around the Golden State Media Concepts Basketball Podcast. All the scoop you need to know from college basketball to the NBA and even March Madness. News of your rising stars. Topics on and off the hardwood. This is the Golden State Media Concepts Basketball Podcast.
Welcome to the show, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back. We've got another episode with Eddie Garcia. We're live from Culver City, California. It's officially Masters Week for all my golfers out there that listen to the show. It's a fun time. It's a good weekend. We get the Masters twice a year this year. That's fun, right? All my golfers, we know the struggle when it comes to golf, and these guys are making it look easy. And they're not making it look easy. It's a tough course. It's playing tough today. But let's get into it, why we're here. We got so much NBA to get into. We obviously know the March Madness is over. I hope you guys have had a good week so far, wherever you're listening to me from. It's beautiful. We're almost spring's here. Looks like summer's on the way. But let's get into this basketball talk. We've got so much to get to on this show. I want to talk a little bit about the Lakers, Raptors suspension, the little dust up they had, and then I want to talk a little bit about the Jazz and Suns last night. What that tells me, KD's return, and then we've also got some Kawhi free agency talk. Is he coming, or is he going to stay, or is he going to go? What's the latest on that? But first, I want to get into this. Obviously, Kevin Durant, right? We talk a lot about the Brooklyn Nets on my show, because obviously they're a contender and we want to see what they're about, right? There's nothing wrong with that. So they beat the Pelicans last night pretty handily, 139-111. Kevin Durant didn't start. He came off the bench. And it's only the second time in his career that he does that. But last night, we saw why I always say Kevin Durant is the second best player in the NBA, and he shouldn't be doing the things he does. We're not going to talk about that. But the Pelicans didn't have Brandon Ingram, no Nikhil Walker, no Josh Hart, whatever that means. Brooklyn didn't have James Harden or Spencer Dinwiddie. But I want to talk a little bit about Kevin Durant. So he comes off the bench, right? And I was watching the game with my dad. I talk a lot about my dad on the show. I watched a lot of basketball with him. And we're like, here we go, right? He checks in, the Slim Reaper, easy money sniper, checks in the ball game. And first play they draw up, it was a little curl, coming off a pick at the elbow, easy jumper, hand in his face, doesn't matter, bucket right in your mouth. Like, we forget, I don't know if, like, NBA fans forget or don't appreciate certain people. But like when Kevin Durant was gone, basketball wasn't the same because it's like the second player is not playing, right? I mean, he's not playing, and we see all these people complaining about everything nowadays, and people complaining about LeBron, like LeBron's out, KD was out, and we were complaining about them while they were playing. Like, we find their flaws, and obviously it's nice to talk about people's flaws and stuff like that. But the greatness these guys have, like Kevin Durant especially, he went perfect yesterday. The guy is hurt. He's playing on one leg, whatever it may be. 5 for 5 from the field, 2 for 2 from 3. Like, the guy is special. His mom was at the game, and I was just sitting there in awe. He played basically 19 minutes, and he was pulling up. Kyrie found him in the corner for 2 threes. And it just looks so effortless to Kevin Durant. And that's why, like, I was thinking about my pick last night, and it was funny. Kevin Durant is hitting all these jumpers and stuff like that, and my dad was like, do you still have the 76ers winning the East? Like, and he kind of laughing. And I was like, after watching that, like, Kevin Durant is the ultimate cheat code. Like, he's an ultimate cheat code. It's not even close. Like, he's so good. And, obviously off the court, he's got some issues about, being a little thin-skinned, being a little soft. When it comes onto the court, the guy is so good. Blake Griffin looks healthy, dunking. Remember, this guy used to jump over cars? LaMarcus Aldridge had 22 points last night. Guys, I may be taking my word back on the Brooklyn Nets. And obviously, it's the Pelicans, and, Pelicans didn't have a ton of their players. Zion, at 16, minus 24, and, But the simplicity, how easy. It was like poetry in motion. It was just so easy. They were smiling, laughing. Obviously, I mean, you are, like I said, you are playing against the Pelicans. But still, just the way Kevin Durant, man, was playing last night. If he plays like that, and then you add James Harden, and like I said, James Harden to be reevaluated in 10 days as of maybe 2 days ago, so he's probably like a week away. So I won't give you like my assessment on that yet, because I want to see them all play together, how it's going to go. But James Harden's a giver also. Like, he doesn't, obviously he needs the ball, but he looks to pass. The only one that I've worried about was Kyrie, and Kyrie looks like he's almost ready to be the second. He might be the third fiddle on the team. That's the only thing my only knock on the Nets is how Kyrie's going to be to being the third fiddle. That's my only knock. That's the only thing I want to see. That's the only thing I really care about, and that's all I really want to see. So, but yeah, man, watching that game last night, there was multiple times in the game where I looked at my dad and we were just like, okay, yeah, he's good. He had the nerve to tell me he's better than LeBron, and I was like, oh, calm down, Edgar. You'll hear a lot about my dad on the show. I watched all my sporting events with him, and basketball especially. But man, Kevin Durant, guys, he's gonna be. Yeah, he looks good. He looks good. Obviously, we don't want him to get hurt again. We'll see how that hamstring holds up, how the body holds up. But yeah, I don't. It's gonna be tough. They're gonna be a tough out. They're gonna be a really tough out. I still got my Sixers because my Sixers look. They look good. Played golf with some Philly guys yesterday. They're, oh man, what do you think about Philly? Are we going all the way? Is Philly beating the Nets? And I'm like, oh, hold on, we know. I'll let you know when Kevin Durant comes back. Philly fans are funny, man. Philly fans are tough. They love their team, but they're it's gonna be interesting to see how it plays out. But these next couple of weeks are gonna be fun with Kevin Durant back. I want to talk a little bit about. I want to dive into this. Yesterday we saw like maybe a conference final preview. The Utah Jazz played against the Phoenix Suns. Another good game. Another game of superstars. Or stars, right? Superstar stars. You get what I mean? I was wondering, did Joe Ingles... So Donovan Mitchell had that huge three to send that game in overtime. Devin Booker had a tough one roll out in the end of regulation, which gave Donovan Mitchell a chance to tie up the ball game. It was a good game though. But I said this last week. Chris Paul puts the Suns over the edge, and in a 7-game series, I think I would still take the Phoenix Suns because of Chris Paul. Chris Paul was a difference last night. You watch the game, 29 points. So Booker is funny. I like Booker a lot. Booker. You guys know how much I rave about Devin Booker, but he needs a guy like Chris Paul to just like ease him, if that makes any sense. Like he eases him into the game. Like Devin Booker doesn't have to take every big shot. Devin Booker doesn't have to. Chris Paul will come down the floor, be the floor general for half a possession, and then take the big shot. He's not afraid to do that. He's done it his whole career. And I think they're a good balance of each other. Because they can kind of go 1-2 punch them too. And then they're surrounded by good pieces in Jay Crowder. Aiden's good. Payne is playing a lot better. Cameron Johnson's a good piece. So they're a good balanced team. Mikal Bridges is another good guy, but he didn't give any contributions last night. 20 minutes, no points. Yeah, that was a good game. And the thing about the Jazz to me, they're still not, they still don't scare me much. And they should. They really should. Bogdanovich, 20 points. Royce O'Neal, 2 points. Rudy Gobert, 16. Donovan, 41. Mike Conley, 11. He's got to be better. Derek Favors, 4. Jordan Clarkson, 11. Like, Donovan Mitchell scoring 41 points. How many assists did he have? You see, 3 assists. And that's what I've talked about that with Donovan Mitchell kind of taking the next step in his game, is making the players around him better. And obviously he does. But I mean, like, assist-wise, put him in good positions to succeed. Stuff like that. That's what puts you over the edge, right? Just affecting the game in multiple ways. And they're a good ball club. Don't get me wrong. They're a great ball club. But they just don't really, like, scare me. They don't. They don't scare me. They're, like I said, great ball club. Great ball club. Don't scare me. And last night was one of those things where I was like, yeah, like, the Suns kind of looked like they were dominating. They're not even dominating. They look like they're in control, right? Because dominating is obviously, that's a big word. But controlling, they were controlling them. And this has kind of been my thing with I've taken a little bit of heat for coming at the Jazz. But they just don't scare me. Like, last night I was watching the game and I was like, no. Like, okay. Like, they've got a bunch of role guys, and they need that one guy to, like, and obviously Mitchell could be that, but he's not that yet. They need someone to take him over the top. And I don't think they quite have that yet. And that's why they don't really scare me, They don't. So, yeah, it was a good game, though. I love that game. I would love to see that in a 7-game series. I think that game goes to 7 games. I think that goes into a game 7. I really think it does, but I do give the edge to the Suns. I like the Suns. Just the Chris Paul effect. The Chris Paul effect is a whole different effect. He's one of those guys that's got better with it. And obviously Chris Paul was amazing at the beginning of his career, but he's like fine wine, He's aged great. He knows his role. And like I said, he kind of takes a little bit of pressure off Devin Booker a little bit. And, the Suns are scary. Second place in the West. They're a scary ball club. And now I want to get to, this Lakers, they got suspended and the Raptors, right? I went off a little bit about people being... I'm not a big fan of people being soft in sports. So sports is one of those things where if you're going to be a soft in sports, like go play soccer, Go if you want to dive like that. And obviously there's flops in basketball. I get that, right? I do. But the commissioner's office and coming down on these suspensions, like, I don't get... Like, do they just get a sheet of paper and okay, so it said a Schroeder gets in a scuffle with Bemby, right? Like what's the deal with that? Do they just get a sheet saying that, or do they actually watch what actually transpires? Because I'm a firm believer they don't. After seeing this suspension, I'm like, wait, why? And I get the whole running on the court thing. I do. Trust me. I do. You don't want that to happen. Right? It was Anunoby. Yeah. OG Anunoby, right? So I get that. So for those of you guys listening to me and didn't see the play, I highly encourage you to go see it. So Anunoby was on a fast break, and Dennis Schroeder kind of held him up, and to not fall, kind of just foul him, don't fall, right? And then OG kind of grabs him and like almost like does like a UFC like push down. And like lifts Schroeder up and kind of throws him to the ground. Then Montrezl comes down and gives him a push, which was a really, obviously that, I thought that was going to be something, right? Because it's usually the third guy in is usually the guy that kind of takes, you know, the trophy. Usually, when the trophy, I mean by fine. And Montrezl backing up his guy. I think he'd been in the game for like 2 minutes, if that. So then Fred VanVleet run onto the court, and so do Talen Horton-Tucker, right? You can kind of see it. So there's a video of Talen Horton-Tucker, and he's about to check in, and he like runs, and then he kind of realizes, oh no, like I shouldn't run on the court. And he maybe got like 5 feet in, and he got suspended for that. Like, are we not, like, is there no gray area? Like, is it just like this and that? Are we just not going to review that? Like, Talen Horton-Tucker had no part of that incident whatsoever. And he's going to get suspended for that? Like, what are we looking at? What are we looking at? I'm thinking like, okay, and I was watching the game live, and then I saw that Shams tweeted out, and I'm like, wait, Horton-Tucker wasn't even in like the scuffle. And then I saw the video, I'm like, what? And then Fred VanVleet ran on the court to get his guys. He wasn't playing. He wasn't suited up. He was in street clothes. But he got suspended as well. If Fred VanVleet came on the floor and started swinging, he should have got his money's worth and started swinging. For if he knew he was getting suspended for trying to bet, he's in street clothes, so maybe he thought like I could go on the floor and kind of just like back my guys up. Like, I'm just thinking like, what? And I get the rule. Trust me, I do. I get it. But it's like a lot of things you've got to like look into things. Like, if you're the NBA and you see that, you're like, okay, Talen Horton-Tucker kind of stopped in his tracks. He maybe ran like 5 feet in. And I was like, okay, I probably shouldn't do this. Right? Like, watch the video. How does Twitter have a video that you don't? Do you not have a video and Twitter does? They don't. Things like that always seem to like. Things like that baffle me. They really do. And Montrezl Harrell got fined $20,000, and OG got fined $30,000. And you guys are going to probably say, "Oh, Eddie, you're a homer. Eddie, you're a homer for the Lakers." But OG picked him up, and he kind of, you don't do. I mean, there was no reason for it. Basically, there was no reason for it. Harrell got fined. 20 large is a lot of money. Not counting anybody's lettuce. You guys know I don't do that. I don't count anybody's lettuce. I don't count anybody's cheese. But 20,000 for maybe like he shoved him. He shoved Gary Trent. But 20 G's for that? There's harder flagrant fouls. What about when a guy's jumping up for a layup and a guy pushes him? You get 2,500, I think, for that. The guy's standing there flat-footed, and you're going to push him, and he knows a push is probably going to come. 20 large. But if you're in the air, you don't know somebody's going to push you, it's 2,500. Right? Does that make sense? And I'm just trying to, like, talk it into, like, I'm trying to get it. I am. I really am. I just hope I think they could appeal it. They should be able to. And so the explanation on Harrell was Harrell, who received a technical foul, was ejected and fined $20,000 for aggressively entering altercation and shoving Raptors guard Gary Trent Jr. Like, he did shove him. But man, if he was getting 20,000, I would have like done something, right? Like, you got to make it worth it. I don't know. Harrell's defending his guy, and you stood up for your guy, and I hope Schroeder takes care of, buys him a nice little steak dinner or something along those lines. But yeah, and then the thing on VanVleet, Bemby, VanVleet, and Talen Horton-Tucker have all been suspended for leaving the bench during an on-court altercation. Watch the video, guys. Like, I don't want to like put this in your head and be like, oh, Eddie, you're a LA homer, like Horton Tucker ran on the court. No, watch the video, and then you guys let me know what you think. Like, I just want you guys to watch. And I was cracking up when I saw that tweet today. But go watch it. Tell me what you guys think. Tweet at me, and let me know. Let me know if I was wrong for that. Man, that was funny. We've got an action-packed show today, guys. We've got so much to get to. I'm already fired up. I'm already sweating a little bit just talking about this stuff. We've got some Kawhi. Like, what's going on with Kawhi? Is Kawhi going to stay? Is Kawhi going to go to the Miami Heat? I don't know. We've got such good games this weekend. We've got, or tonight, we've got the Phoenix Suns against the Clippers. We've got Portland, Utah, loaded slate of basketball games. Luka against Giannis. We got a finals rematch in the Lakers and the Miami Heat. No Kyle Kuzma, but Ben McLemore and Andre Drummond will be playing for the Lakers. Got a great slate of games. Great slate of games. We've got so much to come on the show, guys. Hold tight. We'll be right back.
Are you looking for the very best NFL and college football podcast? Then check out the GSMC Football Podcast. Get the latest football news both on and off the field. From the NFL Draft to trades to the rumor mill to the NFL Combines. They got you covered. That's GSMCpodcast.com/football-podcast. Get updates on college rivalries, game day insights, and much, much more. It's football talk the way you want it. This show eats, sleeps, and breathes football. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit GSMCpodcast.com for more info.
Welcome back to the show, ladies and gentlemen. We've got so much to get to today. I've still got some. Draymond actually went on Kevin Durant's podcast, and they talked a little bit about the past and how people are soft apparently nowadays. I want to get into that, the new and the old. I want to get up my NBA power rankings. My MVP leaders have changed a bit, and the coach of the year. And later on the show, I want to do a little segment where I rank my players to build a franchise around. That'll be fun. That'll be later in the show. But first, let's get to Draymond Green and Kevin Durant. So both of these guys are a little bit of has-beens, as you could tell. They're both guys that have a lot of maybe like past, right? Draymond a little bit more than KD, in a sense that it's funny because Draymond came out with a comment saying something along the lines of, hey, guys nowadays are soft, right? I try to talk trash to them and they just want to be my friends, right? And I was like thinking about that. I was like, wait. So I hear him say that, right? And I'm thinking like, okay, so what does that mean? And then I process it, and then I'm just like, the reason why like these young guys are like different and they don't want to talk back to Draymond Green is because like they don't see Draymond Green as a threat, right? So like how do I want to say it? Like, trash talking is one of those things that, like, not everybody could do it. Only certain guys could do it, right? Some guys are just kind of wired that way. Other guys are just not really wired to even talk to you, right? They'll kind of do, they'll kind of just play with, like, you know, they just play their game. They just kind of do their thing. And some guys are like bullies, right? And more so in basketball now, we're seeing a lot more guys with skill now. And not so much guys that are like bullies, like, custodians, as in custodians, I mean guys that'll like take guys out, guys that'll do the dirty work, guys that'll pick up the dirty fouls, right? Stuff like that. There's that part of the game is almost in the past, just because of a sense that you need so much talent now to win, right? and I'm going to get a little bit away from what Draymond was saying, but it all ties back into what Draymond said. So in the modern day basketball, you don't just need one superstar now. You need like 2 or 3 superstars. If you have 2 guys that can't shoot in an NBA playoff series, you're probably going to lose on the floor, right? That's what I mean. Like, you can't have 2 guys that can't shoot on the floor at one time, or you're probably going to struggle quite a bit. You know what I mean? Like, you have one big man, right? But a lot of big men now can shoot. They stretch out the floor. So what I'm meaning by all this is back in the day, you had guys that, could come into games and just kind of mess with people. Kind of just take guys out of rhythm, right? Kind of be dirty, trash talk, take dirty fouls. And obviously now the league has got smarter with, flagrant fouls. And like I said, sometimes they do get soft with flagrant fouls and stuff like that. I'll be the first to admit. Sometimes like flopping, that's soft, right? They're trying to sell officials, right? And I think they said they're going to do a little change with the challenge call. If you get the first one right, you get a second one. I think that's great. That's what I don't know why they haven't done that. It's kind of like the NFL, right? If you get it right, you kind of keep going. I don't know what they're gonna put a cap on that. But back to all this Draymond talk, right? It's like people aren't threatened by Draymond. Like, it's almost like if you're in a profession, like say I'm playing basketball, I'm let's say Zach LaVine, right? And Draymond Green is talking trash to me, and it's just like I look over to you and I'm like, what have you done since like Kevin Durant, Steph, and Klay? Like, what have you what are you, right? And so him talking trash is almost like guys almost look at him and are like, all right, like, okay, cool. Like, do you want me to talk back, right? So he says the guys are too friendly now. Are we forgetting that you went and called Kevin Durant to join the team that had broke the record for wins in a season? Who's soft? Like, and they talked on their podcast, like, they one of them said, it's not like I got in the parking lot and people ran with the narrative that I went in the parking lot and called Kevin Durant and whatnot. And recruited him. You might have not gone to your car and cried, but you literally recruited the second best player in the world to join a team that had just broke the record for wins. However you got him, good for you. You got championships out of it. But don't like downplay that. Like, why are you downplaying it? Right? You still got Kevin Durant. So who's really the soft one here? Who's really the biggest dog on the block now? Right? And it's just hypocritical to me that like a guy like that could say that. And what is he saying? Guys are soft now? I just think you need more skill now to play in the NBA. Think about it. You legit, like my statement from earlier, you can't have more than 1 or 2 guys. So if you have 2 guys that can't shoot on the floor at one time, you're at a disadvantage. You're literally at a disadvantage. Why are all these guys that play great in the regular season, why can't they do anything in the postseason? Giannis, Ben Simmons, Westbrook. What happens? The floor shrinks in the playoffs. It's a half-court game. Teams aren't running in transition, 80% of the time. No, you're bringing the ball up, you're running a set, or you're going one-on-one. The game slows down. So you need to have guys with skill. Guys like Draymond Green are kind of like I wouldn't even say like a dying breed, but those are guys that like, you could make a living off of that back in the day. Obviously, I wasn't around in the 70s and 80s, and, everything was so much better. That wasn't a foul then. Yeah, but who's guarding LeBron James? You going to hack him? Who's guarding Kevin Durant now? You going to hack him? Okay, that's cool. You're going to hack him. So you're going to tackle him, or you're going to reach and hit him? That's how you play defense? That's tough? That's good basketball? Who's guarding James Harden? Who's guarding Russell Westbrook? Like, who's guarding Curry? The only defense mechanism I hear from older heads that like, oh my God, the game was so much better. No one could play in the game now. Why? Because you guys would tackle him and grab him and like hit him? Is that good basketball though? Look at the scores in the 80s, in the 70s and stuff like that. 85 to 70. If you like defense, go watch football. No one watches sports now to watch defense. I hate to break it to you. The rules are leaning towards offense. Everything. And defense is great. Defense is great. Don't get me wrong. I'm not knocking defense out whatsoever. I'm not. But I'd rather watch a game that goes 120 to 110. Right? I'm not going to sit there and watch brick shots. I don't want to see people tackle each other on a basketball court. I don't think anybody does. It's not good for ratings. It's not good for TV. It's not good for the NBA. So these old guys that say, get off my lawn type, like NBA sucks now. Why? Because there's more skill? There's 7-footers now. Anthony Davis, Porzingis. And obviously they're banged up a little bit. And then, they're like, oh, he wouldn't be able to last in the 70s or the 80s. He's too weak. How are you guarding him now? Like, you can't guard these guys. If you're going to tackle them or hit them, yeah, of course. I could guard you like that. I'm 6 foot. If I'm tackling you, I'm hitting you, I'm grabbing you, of course. Any guy off the street could do that. Of course. What about moving your feet? You literally can't guard these guys. It was kind of what I talked about in my earlier segment. Durant, cheat code. Durant, cheat code. You can't guard him. Impossible. Tell me all you want. You can't guard him. You literally can't. So, for Draymond to say that, like guys are soft now. Draymond, I don't think nobody really cares that you're talking trash to them. It's almost like one ear out the other ear. Like it's almost laughable. And he says, like, these guys want to be my friends. Yeah, because they don't take you serious, bro. You ever thought of that? And I bashed Draymond on the show before for what did he do last time? Did he talk? Was I talking about the play-in games? Oh no, he called himself the best defender of all time. Yeah, he called him the best defender of all time. And I went off on that. And now I told you guys I wouldn't talk about him again on the show, but here I am talking about Draymond Green. But I was listening to the podcast and I'm like thinking like, what? What? Like listen to yourself, bro. Come on, man. Sometimes it's a little bit about self-awareness, right? Like looking around the room. Draymond, what are you doing now? Maybe that's why these young kids don't really care about you talking trash to them. But they don't. Why would they? Oh, Draymond's talking trash. Oh, okay. What has he done? What has he done? What has he done without Steph, Klay, and Kevin Durant? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. So if a guy is going to come up to me and talk trash to me that hasn't done anything, what is it? Is it even considered trash talking at this point? No. And obviously that's a dying breed of guys, like I said earlier. We don't really have guys like that anymore. Teams would rather have a kid that could score off the bench or, a veteran leader, or just somebody that could kind of play a role. You don't really need that anymore. Like I'm thinking about like guys that are like that left in the NBA, and I'm going through teams in my head. Let's go through all teams in the NBA and see like who's like that. So the Brooklyn Nets, do they have a bully? Not really. They don't have a bully. 76ers don't have a bully. Milwaukee Bucks, like PJ Tucker maybe, but PJ Tucker just plays hard. He's not a bully. Charlotte Hornets, no. Atlanta Hawks? No. And now, obviously, I'm just going off the top of my head. Miami Heat? like Jimmy Butler, but he's a dog. Like, he's just a hell of a basketball player. I would have considered him like one of these guys that like comes in, like does custodial work. Maybe Kelly Olynyk, but he's traded. He doesn't play for them anymore. Boston Celtics? No. New York Knicks? No. So I'm just looking at teams right here. All right, let me try to find the teams that do maybe have one. Oh, the Clippers. I found one. Patrick Beverley. Okay. What did he do last night? He fouled out. Flagrant 2. Dirty. It's really only Patrick Beverley and Draymond Green that are left that way. The guys that are annoying, right? Like, are they even good at basketball? And I'm not going to say they're not good at basketball. They're obviously good at basketball. They're in the NBA. So take that with a grain of salt. I don't mean they're not good at basketball. Or else they wouldn't be in the NBA. But do they scare you? No. I don't know. Fake tough guys. I call a lot of people fake tough guys. Draymond can't back it up with no Klay, no Steph, no Klay, no KD. Patrick Beverley? Yeah, what has he done? Got thrown out yesterday. Well, I guess the Morris brothers maybe too, right? But they're not even like that. I don't know. I just think it's funny when people say that, like, get off my lawn type people, you know? I can't stand that. I don't. I just don't get it. But to each their own. We've got new MVP standings. They came out, and there's some interesting stuff that is going on with the MVP talks. So the top hasn't really changed. The Joker, Damian Lillard, Joel Embiid, Giannis, James Harden, Luka Doncic, Kyrie, Kawhi, LeBron, Devin Booker. So I've talked about this before. It's an open door now. Anybody who has 2 hot weeks could kind of go off. There's about 21 games left, I want to say. 21 games left. So what it's looking like, the Joker, Damian, Joel, and Giannis, and James Harden round out the top 5. So Joel's coming off injury. Giannis is kind of flying under the radar. James Harden's missing the next 10 games or 10 days. Luka's kind of playing better now. Kyrie's playing a lot better now, but you don't know if he's going to show up. Kawhi's been playing well. The Clippers are playing well, but I don't see him jumping like 8 spots. And then LeBron and Booker. LeBron's an interesting one. So LeBron tweeted out a photo the other day that the weatherman said that the weather might get better sooner than later. And what does that mean for the Lakers? What does that mean for LeBron? Well, the Lakers need LeBron fast. They need somebody or Anthony Davis to fall out of the sky because they're falling 32-20, 5 spot, 2 games back of or a game and a half back of the Portland Trailblazers. They better get going. You don't want to play into the playing game. I've talked about that before. But the Joker up top is kind of like, he's having a good year. The Joker's having a good year. Let me pull up his numbers. So the Joker's having a good year, but he hasn't separated himself. You know what I mean? Like, the door's still open. And usually when, like, you talking to MVP guys, it's like you look at the last couple MVPs, they've kind of widened the margin in the last, like, you know, you're like, okay, this guy's the MVP this year. Like, it's kind of what it is. There's like, it's not coming down to the end. Like last year, Giannis and LeBron maybe a little bit, but Giannis was having a hell of a year, and you know, LeBron was he was having a good year, but you know, Giannis was having better numbers or whatnot. And like the thing with the Joker is he's averaging 26, 10, and 8, but the Nuggets have kind of been a little inconsistent, right? They haven't been like the bubble team that we thought they were going to be. And I heard something funny the other day. Charles actually said it on NBA on TNT. He said they call them a ballroom superstars. Guys that play, in the bubble. It was a joke. There obviously weren't in a ballroom, but ballroom superstars. Nobody was in the stands. No travel. Nothing really, right? But no one's really, like I said, no one's really separated themselves. Dame averaging 29, 4, and 7. What's he shooting from the field? That's what I mean. Like, obviously, Giannis or Joel and LeBron were kind of at the top with it because they were kind of separating themselves, right? We saw some space. We saw like them kind of taking full advantage of it. So let's see. He's averaging 35 minutes, 29 points. From three, he's averaging 37%, which is obviously pretty good. Field goal percentage, 44% from the field. What's his plus minus? 1.1. It's not great. It's not like superstar-ish, right? What's his defensive? 7 assists, 4 rebounds. So I mean, he's not like 93% from free throw. So like they're having good years, right? And then Joel, obviously, who I think was my clear-cut favorite, got hurt. That kind of set him back. And then Giannis is having one of those years that he's having a good year, but people aren't like amazed by it now. It's like, what have you done for me lately? It's at what have you done for me lately league. And then James Harden, who rounds out the top 5, I thought should have had a legitimate chance. But then he got hurt, so he's out for 10 days, so people forget about him. And that's kind of the way the MVP works, is like who's had the best last month, or like the best last week. And I feel like whoever has the next like best 2 weeks is gonna end up winning the MVP. That's what it's gonna come down to. Like if you have 2 good weeks, you could end up winning the MVP. So much to get to. We still got the NBA power rankings. There were some great basketball games today that we'll get over. Some crazy endings. The Wizards against the Warriors, hell of a finish. Zach LaVine goes off in the first half, but they lose the game. I'll talk about that. And so much more to get to, ladies and gentlemen, and I'll be right back after this brief message.
Tired of searching the vast jungle of podcasts? Now listen close and hear this out. There's a podcast network that covers just about everything that you've been searching. Hey! The Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network is here. Nothing less than a podcast bliss with endless hours of podcast coverage. From news, sports, music, fashion, cooking, entertainment, fantasy, football, and so much more. So stop lurking around and go straight out to the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. Guaranteed to fill that podcast itch. Whatever it may be. Visit us at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter, and download us on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Google Play.
Welcome back to the show, ladies and gentlemen. We've got so much basketball news to get to. We've got some crazy scores from tonight. I talked a little Draymond in the last episode. We've got my MVP leaders. We'll go through some power rankings as well. What coaches deserve some credit this year? There's so many good coaches this year. They've done such a good job. It's been a competitive, it's one of those years that it almost seems like anybody could win in any given night. I'm going to talk about my favorite players to build around right now. Players that I think could really make a difference. Guys that I would take first. But first, let's get into the scores from the last couple days. Thursday night, we had the Chicago Bulls beat the Raptors pretty handily, 122-113. Zach LaVine had 22 points of his own and 13 big assists. The Lakers lost to the Miami Heat, a depleted Lakers team. No Kuzma, no LeBron, no AD. Victor Oladipo left the game with the apparent knee injury. Hopefully he's all right, but it looks like he's going to miss some time with the knee injury, unfortunately. You kind of thought that they were going to get going. We got the Cavaliers against the Thunder, handled them pretty easily. The Mavericks against the Bucks. That was a game it was a good game. Giannis didn't play. So that, you got to kind of take it with a grain of salt. That improves his MVP talk. Luka had 18. Quiet night for Luka, actually. 27 points. I was looking at his plus or minus. So quiet night for him. The Jazz beat the Trailblazers after a loss to the Clippers, 122-103. They beat the Blazers. The Blazers are one of those teams, man. They could kind of jump the Lakers, and since they see kind of blood in the water, but we'll see how that goes. The Clippers beat the Suns. That was a game. Now, so I was watching that game. Is it the Clippers were better, or that the Suns were coming off a tough back-to-back against the Utah Jazz? They were on the road. So, take it with a grain of salt. Good game, I thought, though. Paul George. And I've said it for the longest time. The Rondo pickup, I absolutely loved. That was a pickup that, no one really saw. Rondo didn't work for Atlanta. He got his money, but the Clippers were obviously in him from the start, from this offseason. They kind of wanted him. They liked what he did with the Lakers last year. What he kind of took him over he's kind of like, so he's not quite what Chris Paul does to Devin Booker, but he's almost close. Like he's in the same, it's the same situation. So I want to say the same situation. Like they take pressure off of guys. They relieve stress off guys. So Kawhi doesn't have to have all the pressure, right? Paul George doesn't have to have all the pressure. Rajon Rondo kind of takes pressure from guys. He puts them in good positions to succeed. There was a dirty play by Patrick Beverley, who he kind of forearmed Chris Paul, and he's kind of known for being probably one of the dirtiest players in the NBA. But the Clippers beat the Suns. They hold off the Suns. Detroit beats the Kings pretty handily, 113-101. And then tonight, Friday night, we had a good slate of games. So my Minnesota Timberwolves played the Boston Celtics, who I think, the Boston Celtics, I say, are not very good. I think they're a little too small. But Jason Tatum had a night to remember. 53 points. 10 rebounds. Man, he had a night. 16 to 25 from the field. 6 for 10 from 3. 15 to 16 from the free throw line. He came to play tonight, ladies and gentlemen. He came to play. Let's see on my Anthony Edwards. I propose Anthony Edwards to get some love for Rookie of the Year. The door must have been open. He had 24 points. Let's see, 24 points, 7 for 12 from the field, which isn't bad. 2 for 6 from 3, 8 for 8 from the free throw line. So that's not a bad night. Not a bad night. 5 rebounds, 5 assists. So not a bad night for Anthony Edwards. Karl-Anthony Towns led the T-Wolves with 30 points in 42 minutes. 10 for 22 from... did D'Angelo play? Yeah, D'Angelo played. He had 26 points. So, yeah, that big three is a good big three. Anthony Edwards, 24, Karl-Anthony, 30, and D'Angelo Russell, 26. That was a good night. But, there, that's something to build off, for the Celtics come off with a win. They, Jason Tatum, 53 points. That's special. That's a hell of a night. The Knicks hold off the Grizzlies, man. I hate to see the Knicks are a good team, and I talk about how much I like Ja Morant and how much he needs some help. And he was, 50% from the field, not bad. Minus 10, though, 26 points. Not a bad night. Knicks just played better. Julius Randle, 15 of his own. RJ Barrett is quietly having a good season. No one's kind of talking about RJ Barrett. He was kind of like he was obviously the number one kid coming out of his class in high school, and then they both went to Duke with Zion, and Zion ended up being the bigger star, the bigger player. We all kind of knew that, happened. But RJ Barrett's having a good year. Somebody made a comment the other day of like, RJ Barrett's a guy we want taking the last shot. Who was that? Oh, it was Anthony Edwards, actually. He said he's the guy we want taking the last shot. So I don't know if that was a shot at him, but hey, he's having a good year. The Hawks hold off the Bulls. I got an update that Zach LaVine had 39 points in the first half. He ended up with 50 points, but he had 39 points in the first half. He was going off 18 for 31. If you're shooting 31 times, man, I hope you you put up 50 points. That's a lot of shots. How did Vooch do? Vooch had 25 of his own, minus 14. Tough night for him. 11 for 19 from the field. So that's going to be interesting to see. That's something we got to look out for. But Patrick Williams, their top pick, only 4 points. He's got to be better. You got to be better, man. The Vooch at 25, like I said. Kobe White 11, 4 for 11 from the field. So it looks like, I didn't watch that game, but LaVine filled it up. But yeah. And then the Pelicans beat the 76ers. The 76ers are, what's the best way to put the 76ers? They're having I thought they were having a good year. But the Pelicans came out to play. Danny Green, 8 points. Tobias Harris, 23 points. Joel Embiid, only 14 points. Wow, 5 for 16 from the field. Come on, MVP. We got to be better than that. Seth Curry, 0 for 7 in 26 minutes. Wow. Tough night, no points. Ben Simmons, 3 for 6, 10 points. Yeah, that's not going to cut it. Tough night. Tough night for the 76ers. Good for the Pelicans. Zion Williamson, 37 points. He had a dunk in this game so Zion's a massive human, right? We all know that. Like, you shouldn't be able to do the things he does as easy as he does them. But there was a replay today that I saw. He took a lot of shots. He took 28 shots, 15 he made, 30% from the field. But he took off. And his head was at like the back, like the middle of the square. What's he listed at? Zion is listed at 6'7", 284. That's a man. 20 years old. That is a man. Guys, he is a freakish athlete. Freakish. Like, there is no other way to put that besides him being a freakish athlete. I saw that and I was like, holy jeepers. Bucks lose to the Hornets. No Giannis. Obviously, no Ball. Nuggets, they barely beat the Spurs 121-119. This is the thing with the Nuggets, man. Like, you don't know what you're getting from them. Obviously, San Antonio's tough, but 24 points for DeMar. 25 from Derek White. Rudy Gay, 15 points. I love Rudy Gay. Good player. Let's see how the Nuggets looked. Michael Porter, 22 points. That's a big night. Aaron Gordon, 11, minus 7. The Joker, 26 points, 13 rebounds, 14 assists. Have a night, Joker. Have a night. 9 for 17 from the field. Wow, have a night. Did they not have looks like they didn't have Jamal Murray? Or am I not reading this right? Yeah, no Jamal Murray. So that's why these guys had big nights. Monte Morris, 21 points. Monte Morris is a great backup point guard. He kind of comes in and changes the tempo of the game. He's fast. He's shifty. Just a good ball player. And then the Warriors, you guys know my boy Draymond and against the Wizards. They had a tough one. That was a 4-point play. If you haven't seen it, look it up, YouTube it, Twitter it, whatever you want to do. But Bradley Beal Russell Westbrook misses a three-pointer off the front of the rim. Then Bradley Beal hustles back to get it, hits the front of the rim. Bradley Beal runs down and gets it, takes it to three, and gets fouled by Andrew Wiggins to kind of seal the game. And they fouled him. He goes to the free throw line. He's automatic from the free throw line. Bradley Beal, 20 points, but none bigger than those 4 that he had. Westbrook, what did Westbrook go for? Westbrook went for 19, 8 for 17 from the field. But Hachimura, guys, he's quietly having a phenomenal year. 37 minutes, 9 for 16, 22 points. No one's talking about it. Gonzaga, Hachimura, hell of a year. Just watch him play. Go either hand, left, right, doesn't matter. Robin Lopez, 20 points. Okay, have a night. 9 for 14 from the field. Okay. Have a night, Robin Lopez. Go to Disneyland for me. If you guys don't know, he loves Disneyland. Both of them do. Both brothers do. See what Draymond had. 5 points. 2 for 9 from the field. 0 for 3 from 3. 5 rebounds. 8 assists. -7. He wonders why people don't worry about him talking trash anymore. Draymond, that's why. 5 points. Poor Steph. Steph had 32 points. Kelly Oubre, 23 points. James Wiseman, 18. Damian Lee added 10 of his own. But they've got... Jesus, Draymond. He wonders why people don't listen to him talking smack. Like, your talk literally carries no weight. No weight. The Rockets lost to the Clippers. Obviously, that was kind of knew that was going to happen. But the Clippers are getting hot, guys. Like, the Clippers are having quietly, like, Rondo. I'm about to talk about that here in a second. But Rondo is literally feasting for them. I said it. I loved it how they picked up Rondo at the deadline. I don't think he played though. Must have not watched the game. Yeah, Rajon Rondo inactive. So, but still, his mindset, everything. Paul George didn't play. They didn't need them. Bogey Cousins on a 10-day contract, only 5-6 minutes, 3 points. I hope he gets going. And I let's see what Isaiah Thomas did. He's a guy that I talked about earlier on the show a couple of shows ago that I was so excited for him to get picked up. I hope he stays in the league. They did him wrong. But let's see what he did, Isaiah Thomas. Did he play? Looks like he didn't play. Oh, coach's decision. Okay, well, that's a bummer. 10-day contract may be coming to an end. Coach's decision, did not play. So we'll see what that's about. Hopefully it's nothing. I hope he gets a legitimate chance. I like IT. Kind of feel like he goes rushed out of the league, but hopefully he gets it going. Let's get to the power rankings for this week. The best plus minus this week was Rudy Gobert, plus 89 in 4 games. That's a hell of that's great. Teams that are struggling this week, Dallas 4-0. They won 4 games, obviously. With the Lakers sliding, they have a legitimate chance at that top seed in the West, or top 6 seed in the West. The Lakers got to keep going. Let's see here. So let's get to the top teams, the power rankings this week. In first place, we've got the Utah Jazz. They obviously lost to the Suns earlier in the week, and they're third in defensive rating, second offensive rating. They're obviously going to have good. You're going to be going good there. Average 99 points a game at 38 and 11. I'm sorry. They've lost to the Jazz, and I thought that was a game that really showed me a lot about the Utah Jazz. It almost confirmed what I already knew. I already knew that they weren't the ball club that they're. I don't think anybody's really scared of the Utah Jazz, and I've talked about that before. The Suns, they jumped from 6-2 last week. They had a lot of big wins this week. They looked good. They've got the Clippers coming. They lost to the Clippers, so They got Washington coming up. Defensive rating 5th in the league, offensive 7th, so that's not bad. Coming in at 3, we got the Brooklyn Nets, who are at 2nd. I think they should have been up, but their defensive rating is still 25th in the league, ladies and gentlemen. But first offense in the league, they're averaging 100 points a game. Defense has to get a lot better, and I think it'll get better with Kevin Durant back. Kevin Durant's a good defender, but yeah, 25th is not going to cut it. 4th, jumping in at 4, the Denver Nuggets. They had a good week. Last week they were at 8th, so they obviously jump a couple spots. Offensive rating 3rd, defensive 15. They've got to get better defensively, and they're averaging 97 points a game at 31 and 18. They've got Boston coming up, so we'll see how they look. They've got to get going, though. I think Jamal Murray has to be a lot better. The Bucks are coming in at 5. They dropped from 4. Giannis didn't play tonight. I don't think it's anything serious. Defensive rating 8. Scoring is 5th. So they're putting up 102 points a game, and they obviously signed Drew Holiday long term. So that's going to be a 3-headed monster, it looks like, for the future with Chris Middleton, Drew Holiday, and Giannis for the upcoming, and that's gonna be fun. So the extension pays him $130 million over the next 4 years. How about that? Have a day, Drew Holiday. Los Angeles, California, UCLA Bruin. The 76ers fall a couple spots. They're 6th now. Offensive rating 14th. Defensive rating number 2. That's why I have them so high. I think when it comes down to it, they're gonna be able to make stops. That's what you're gonna have to do against the Nets. You're gonna have to make stops down the line. You're gonna have to stop KD. I think they match up pretty solid. I think Ben Simmons is gonna have to guard KD. To kind of bother him with length. I'm not sure the Nets have anybody to guard Embiid, so that's advantage them. Kyrie, obviously, and I don't know. That's going to be an interesting matchup, how they match up. They have that Thibault kid from Washington who's a hell of a defender. He'll probably guard Harden. Obviously, guys like that, you don't really, slow down. Or you don't stop. You just kind of slow down. The Clippers coming in at 7. I don't know why this is a thing. Why do they fall so many? Oh, because they lost. Yeah, but I still think the Clippers are having... The Clippers are good, I thought. But, they beat the Jazz. But they're a little inconsistent, right? We don't know how healthy that Paul George foot is. Interesting to see how that plays out here in the next couple weeks. They have the second easiest schedule, though, going forward. So that's nothing but help. The Dallas Mavericks coming in at 8th. Defensive rating 14th, right in the middle of the pack. 13th, I'm sorry. Offensive 11th. 98 points a game. 27 and 21. So Luka's starting to get going. They're going to have to get going fast. They could catch if they want to catch the Lakers. Portland coming in at 9. Defensively, they stink. They stink defensively, and that's kind of been their calling card the last couple of years. They've been really bad at defense, and that's kind of what's been holding them back. 29th in the league, 6th offensively. They've got to get going. 10th, the Memphis Grizzlies snuck into the top 10. Offensive rating 18, defensive rating 7. I've said that the Grizzlies are a player away. I said that. And the Lakers that coming in at 11, outside looking in, no LeBron, no AD, no Drummond for this week. So still defensively, they're number 1. Frank Vogel deserves a lot of credit, and I'll talk about that here in the next segment. Coaches that deserve some credit, but credit Coach Vogel. First defense, 20th in offense. Obviously, we get that. No LeBron, no AD, and then they missed Kuzma the other night. So top 3 of their scores missing. 99 points a game. So we'll talk about that here a little bit more. Hold on tight. We got so much more to get to on the show. Loaded show. We still got my players that I would build around. Who would I build around? That's interesting to see. We've got some more to look forward to. What games to look forward to this weekend? Then we've got the Brooklyn Nets. How the Brooklyn Nets look, and I'll talk about that here in a second. More news to get to after this brief message.
This is your ultimate stop for everything sports. The Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. Should I say more? From the NFL, MLB, the NBA to MMA, it's all in here. The Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. Listen now.
Welcome back to the podcast, ladies and gentlemen. We've got to the last segment, and I want to talk about three things that have been on my mind lately. This week, actually, to be in particular. I want to talk a little bit about Kawhi Leonard's future, and I talked about that. I want to talk about players that I want to build around, right? Players that I think are pillars for a franchise to start and build around. And then I want to talk a little bit about LeBron's Instagram post against James Harden's Instagram post. So let's get into that. So I'm going to go on Instagram and I'm going to see these posts and which one do I believe more and which one do I believe less? Which one do I buy in? So LeBron James, the weatherman says the weather is changing soon and it predicts a thunderstorm. It's coming. Folks, prepare and take proper caution. Two emojis like the stop sign and the, measures to stay safe. Okay, you got me there. Now let's look at James Harden's. James Harden said, what did James Harden say? James Harden said, I told the bros, sky's the limit. We play if we play it right. So, pictures with Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving, Jeff Green, Blake Griffin, right? So, which one do I buy? Which one do I sell? What do I think? Let's digest this. So, let's start off with the James Harden one, right? So, the James Harden one is, literally, he says it. I told the bros, sky's the limit if we play it right. So, with the futures, or with the past in these guys, with Kevin Durant, Kyrie, DeAndre Jordan, Blake Griffin, and the rest of this, LaMarcus Aldridge, how is this going to work out? If they play it right, LeBron, you're going to need a shelter fast. Because with that thunderstorm that you're bringing, you'll get past the West. But you're going to need a 20-foot bunker, 20-foot by 20-foot bunker ready. This is a tornado. And I've said I wasn't going to give my prediction on this team till they're fully healthy, and I'm still going to sit by that word. But if they play it right, guys, this might be the most talent on any roster we have ever seen. It's insane the amount of offensive firepower this team has. Now, defensively, do they lack? Oh, 100% they do. 100% they do. But offensively, what this team could do to you is absolutely scary. We've never seen anything like it. Nothing. I don't think anybody comes close. The only team that I could kind of think about that comes close is obviously the Warriors, right? But think about this team. Potentially Kyrie, Kevin Durant, Blake Griffin, LaMarcus Aldridge, Landry Shamet, Jeff Green. Who else do we have? Joe Harris. Like, that's some serious firepower. Now, James Harden, what he said is 100% correct. If they play it right. Big if, right? Does DeAndre Jordan get mad all of a sudden because he's not getting his minutes he deserves, right? Is LaMarcus taking minutes from him? Is Blake taking minutes from him? Somebody's going to have to take a step back. Jeff Green, is he not happy in his role? Is he not playing a lot of minutes? Even though I think their best lineup is with Jeff Green at the 5, personally. Is Kyrie going to go, AWOL? You never know. Is Blake Griffin going to be, he's kind of bought in, so I think he might be the guy that believe it or not, is most adaptable. Does Kevin Durant get mad that he's not getting shots? Does James Harden get mad? He doesn't have the ball in his hands at always. Like, if they play this right, but the thing to me is everything has to be perfect, right? Obviously, in the playoffs, one of them could have a bad night and somebody could take over and whatnot. I obviously, but after that, like Joe Harris, I'm like, this team is nuts. Tyler Johnson's even a good player. Landry Shamit's a good player. Colbert's a good player. Somebody's going to, DeAndre Jordan's not playing many minutes lately. Maybe he's upset with his role. Right? It's one of those things that, like, if they play it right, obviously, like James Harden says, if they play it right, sky's the limit. Thunderstorm. Get in a bunker, LeBron. Get in a bunker. Shelter up. You're not coming out for a while. But then again, now let's look at LeBron's, right? The weatherman says the weather is changing soon. What I read into that is that he might be coming back a little bit before ahead of schedule with his partner in crime, Anthony Davis, who's been out for a while. Predicts a thunderstorm is coming, folks. Prepare with a proper caution. So, obviously, we know they've played together. Last year was a kind of a chemistry year, right? It always takes like a year to see how guys play together. And that's my knock on the Nets. We haven't seen them play together. And you kind of want to see like 15 to 20 games together with the team. Because obviously you could throw these guys out together in a pickup game and they look great or whatnot. But this is NBA basketball. At the end of the day, they're playing against professionals on the other side of the floor. Good teams, right? But LeBron James and Anthony Davis obviously are probably the best 1-2 punch in the league right now. And they've played together. But I don't know how healthy Anthony Davis is, and that's my only concern, because LeBron, takes care of his body pretty well. Doesn't have many injuries. Obviously, Anthony Davis has a history with injuries, so that's something that I worry about, obviously. But if they could get games in together, Kyle Kuzma's kind of come into his own, kind of knows his role. And I think they're better than last year, the Lakers are. Dennis Schroeder, obviously. These are all guys, Montrezl Harrell, KCP. These guys all benefit off LeBron James and Anthony Davis. And they add Andre Drummond. I totally forgot about Andre Drummond. And these are all guys that obviously right now don't look great. They just don't, right? None of these guys are built to take over games, to take on loads of, being able to score on any given night. KCP is going to give you a spurt, he's going to give you 6 to maybe 12 points a night. One day he'll erupt for like 20. Markieff Morris, same deal, right? You get a couple threes out of him. One day he'll erupt for like 15 to 18 points, right? Andre Drummond, though. Think about Andre Drummond. They're throwing him the ball in the block. How much of that's going to happen when Anthony Davis and LeBron are back? I'm not sure very much. He's going to be kind of a guy that kind of like, I almost want to say like freeloads off those two, because he's gonna have so many easy putbacks. He's gonna have so many easy pick and rolls. So many easy. The thing about it is, if he's on the floor with Anthony Davis, you got to guard one of them, and you're probably gonna end up double teaming Anthony Davis, which means Andre Drummond is gonna have a free line to the rim, easy to to dunks. It's kind of his game. It's kind of what he does, right? And he's never been like on a team where he's like could do that freely, to be honest with you. So that's something to look out for. Alex Caruso, another guy. These guys all benefit off LeBron and Anthony Davis. Montrezl Harrell, Kyle Kuzma, Taylor Horton-Tucker, Wesley Matthews kind of playing better. And then Bad McElmore, who I think was a great pickup for the Lakers, to be honest with you. That's a great pickup to me. All these guys obviously don't look well right now just because of the situation. But that Brooklyn Nets team is scary. I think they are... if they find a way to figure it out, like if they get that thing rolling, they're going to be a tough out. Like I'm saying, they need to be perfect, but if they're not perfect, look out. Just look out. This Laker team is great, and the chemistry goes so far. And I do want to say this before this happens, and I want to like check mark this, and I'll talk about it more on my next podcast. But if the Lakers don't win this year, you could blame it on injuries. You can't blame it on injuries, but I'm a firm believer. So like last year, you guys remember with the Clippers, right? They were always like resting guys. They were always taking games off. They were always like kind of like shortcutting things. And I believe in. I played college football. I believe in, and I've always been a very superstitious person. I've always been a firm believer in sports having gods, if that makes sense. So like baseball gods, right? Football gods, basketball gods. And if you disrespect the game, I feel like the gods get upset. And that's maybe me just looking too deep into it, me being like, but if you ask any athlete, I think they'll tell you the same thing. You can't cheat the sport. And not to say that the Lakers and the Nets are cheating the sport, but they're not really going through the season, right? They're kind of like obviously they're injuries, right? And you can't do anything about injuries. But that's almost in a sense like you're not all fully committed. And we saw that last year with the Clippers. They weren't fully committed. And it came back and bit them in the butt. It really did. I'm a firm believer that's the basketball gods woke up and were like, you know what? You cheated me half the season. I'm going to come back and get you. Whatever you want to believe in, I believe in that. I'm a firm believer in it. So if the Lakers somehow fall short of it, I'm a firm believer that's the reason why. Anthony Davis just wasn't healthy. And obviously I'm speaking too soon. There's still 21 games left. Like James Harden missed 10 games. Kyrie Irving was leaving all the time. Kevin Durant was not healthy for a quarter of the season, half the season. They're just not healthy. They're not fully healthy. And I think these last 21 games are going to tell us a lot. I don't know how soon we're going to see LeBron. They said maybe the end of the month. And we're currently in the 10th, so that's 20 days. That's maybe 10 games, right? If they play every other day, that's 10 games. So he'd be back for 21. Come on, Eddie. That'd be 11 games he'd be back for. I don't think that's enough. I think he needs to play like 15 to 20 games. Or no, like 15 games at least. Anthony Davis is also like 15 games. To get in shape, to get in, get ramped up. Because obviously you can work out as much as you want off the court, but you're not going to be in basketball shape, right? You want to be peaking at a certain point. And I don't know if Anthony Davis, to be completely with you, he wasn't very good when he first, at the beginning of the season, to be completely honest with you guys. So that's really interesting to see. I'm very interested to see how that plays out, what goes on there. I want to talk a little bit about, let's switch gears to the Clippers now. What happens with Kawhi Leonard? So the Clippers are an interesting team to me. So the Clippers to me are, last year they obviously had that terrible way that down 3-1, up 3-1 and then lose, right? This year they're kind of playing hard. They're playing under the radar. That's kind of what teams want. The Lakers kind of came out with the target on their back. The Nets, and the Clippers kind of remind me of the Milwaukee Bucks in the East, where like no one's really talking about them, right? They're just kind of going. No, I don't want to say they're playing hard. They're winning tough basketball games. They've got the second easiest schedule coming up. Look out for that. And the next week they've got Detroit winnable, Pacers winnable, Detroit again winnable. Then they play the 76ers, which will be a good game. And then they play the T-Wolves winnable. And then they play, Portland winnable, Memphis winnable, Rockets winnable. Like they could go on a stretch here where they just don't lose. But obviously that's going to come down to how they play, obviously. And the Clippers have been a little inconsistent this year, but they've kind of found their way. Like I said, they lost to the Nuggets, but other than that, it's been W's. But the thing about Kawhi, so I want to get to Kawhi a little bit. So if they lose, who do we blame? That's kind of been the thing. Who do we blame in Los Angeles if that happens? Obviously, you want to point at Pandemic P, Paul George, because he, in big moments, he's kind of been bad, to be honest with you. He hasn't been good. Kawhi's kind of been the steady rock. You kind of know Kawhi's like a guy that you know what you're getting from him on every given night, right? You're probably going to get 20 points from him, good couple of rebounds, good defense. He's just a consistent player, right? When he's out there. Paul George, you really don't know what Paul George you're getting, right? Especially, but I don't want to talk about Paul George in the regular season. I don't want to talk about regular season because whatever the Clippers do in the regular season really doesn't matter. At this point, it doesn't matter. They could go undefeated. They could have gone undefeated the whole year and lost in the second round, and the season would have been a bust. It just would have. Clippers are looking to go deep in the playoffs. They're kind of trying to get their monkey off their back. And Charles said last night, he said, I've been rich, I've been poor, I've been fat, I've been skinny. The Clippers have always sucked. That's a narrative. That's a narrative around the Clippers. Does Kawhi want to be tied to that? Like, does Kawhi want to be tied to Paul George being bad in the playoffs? In seeing Kawhi that he's left, San Antonio, he did want it out. Then he wanted out. Then he left Toronto. Why would he not leave again to go play in Miami or something like that? Think about it. Like, obviously he's at home here and, he's from San Diego, but he's home. But does he really want to be a second fiddle to the Lakers for another year? Like, another 3 to 5 years? And then be tied to Paul George? Who really you don't know how he's going to show up in the playoffs. And not to just knock Paul George, Kawhi was bad in the playoffs as well. Like, I keep seeing these things he's likely to sign. He's one of those guys that would pick up and go. Like, what's his tie to the Clippers? LA? I don't know. I don't think so. I don't know. Don't be surprised. All I'm saying, I'm gonna quote this. Don't be surprised if Kawhi Leonard picks up and leaves. Don't be. You heard it here first. Golden State Media, Eddie Garcia. Don't be surprised when Kawhi Leonard picks up and leaves. Don't. If Paul George has another offseason, another postseason like that, he's gone. Trust me. Kawhi doesn't like being around that. He's different. He's different. The way he's wired, I think. He's one of those guys that you walk in an altercation, he'd rather walk the other way. Doesn't want to deal with it. Doesn't like confrontation, I feel like. Doesn't like, doesn't like it. I think it's safe to say, guys, he could be out. Don't say I didn't sell you so. I'm saving this. I want to give Frank Vogel some credit, just where credit's due. Number one defense in the NBA. No LeBron, no Anthony Davis. Just throw that out there. So I want to talk about players that I would build around, right? And this is a very tough one. So if I'm an owner, basically, who do I want to build around, right? Who are my top guys? Who do I like? Who do I pick? And I'll go into a little detail of this on my next podcast. But I want to touch bases on that. Like, do you want to build around Trae Young? Probably not. Not a very good defender, a little undersized. Teammates sometimes don't like the way he plays, right? John Morant, super wiry, but maybe lacks leadership or maybe lacks in a certain department. You think about it, right? James Harden, do you want to build around him? Maybe not the best leader, great basketball player, but just doesn't that leader factor. You don't know if he has it, right? Kevin Durant, same thing. Like, is he a leader? Do people rally around him, or is he a chief or is he an Indian? Right? That's kind of the way I'm looking at like building around people. And I look at Chiefs. Who are Chiefs? LeBron James. Next 3 to 5 years. Still wanted to build around him. He's a leader. He knows how to win. Guys, he knows how to rally guys around. Anthony Davis, probably not. Right? Maybe he's learning from LeBron. Maybe he'll learn how to be that chief, be that leader. But right now, no. Luka Doncic, leader. Best player on the team. Guys rally around him. Guys want to play with him. Makes people around him better. Those are my two guys right now that and obviously I'll do some more research. Like Zion, also leader. Zion, quiet, but leader. Somebody you could build around. Probably the next big thing. And that's a tease for my next episode that I come on the show next week. And I'll be back talking about players to build around. Like I said, don't be surprised if Kawhi walks. LeBron, if the Nets are clicking, you need to build a bunker. Get ready. It's going to be a long playoff series. So much good stuff, guys. Thank you so much for joining the show today. Eddie Garcia, I'm out. Have a great rest of your weekend.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Basketball Podcast, part of the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and Google Play. Just type in GSMC to find all the shows from the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network, from movies to music, from sports to entertainment, and even weird news. You can also follow us on Twitter and on Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's program.